You work here? Olivia Brooks asked, her voice carrying farther across the executive lobby than she intended. Several employees glanced up from their desks. The question hung in the air for a moment that felt longer than it should have. The man she was speaking to simply nodded. Rain tapped softly against the towering glass windows overlooking downtown Seattle. The scent of fresh coffee drifted through the building while polished marble floors reflected the morning light. Liam Carter adjusted the toolbox in his hand and offered a polite smile. "Yes, ma'am," he replied. Olivia looked briefly at the maintenance request on her tablet. "I thought they were sending someone more experienced." A few people nearby exchanged uncomfortable looks. Liam's smile never disappeared. "I can take a look at the problem." Olivia sighed and glanced at her watch. "Fine. Just try not to make it worse." Then she walked away without another word. Liam remained standing for a second before quietly heading toward the elevator. He did not defend himself. He did not explain anything. He simply pressed the button and waited. That was one of the things life had taught him. Not every misunderstanding needed an argument. Sometimes dignity was quieter than pride. Upstairs, the executive conference floor buzzed with activity. Collins Global was preparing for one of the largest acquisitions in company history. Investors were arriving from across the country. Reporters were expected later that afternoon. Every detail mattered. Olivia Brooks had built her reputation by demanding excellence from everyone around her. At 35 years old, she was one of the youngest CEOs in the city. Success followed her everywhere. Yet despite the awards, the interviews, and the headlines, there was a loneliness she rarely admitted even to herself. Meanwhile, Liam stepped into a mechanical room overlooking the conference center. Within minutes, he identified the issue causing repeated failures in the building's climate control system. A faulty component hidden behind a wall panel had been overlooked by two previous contractors. Liam worked carefully and methodically. His movements carried the confidence of someone who understood far more than people assumed. An hour later, the system was running perfectly. No announcement followed. No applause arrived. Liam packed his tools and prepared to leave. On his way back through the lobby, he noticed a young receptionist struggling with several heavy supply boxes. Without hesitation, he set down his toolbox and helped her. "Thank you," she said gratefully. Liam nodded. "Of course." Then he continued toward the exit. From the second-floor balcony, Olivia happened to witness the entire interaction. For reasons she could not explain, she found herself watching him longer than necessary. There was something unusual about the man. Not because of what he did, but because of how he did it. No frustration. No need for recognition. No attempt to impress anyone. Just quiet kindness. Liam stepped outside into the Seattle rain and pulled on his worn jacket. Across the street, his phone buzzed. A text message appeared from his 10-year-old daughter. It contained a simple photo of a drawing she had made for him after school. Liam smiled immediately. The expression transformed his face. At that exact moment, Olivia looked through the lobby windows and saw something she had completely missed before. The maintenance worker she had dismissed that morning did not look like a man who had nothing. He looked like a man carrying something far more valuable than success. That evening, the rain followed Liam Carter all the way home. The streets of Seattle shimmered beneath streetlights as his aging pickup truck rolled through quiet neighborhoods lined with small houses and tall evergreen trees. By the time he pulled into his driveway, the sky had darkened completely. Before he could even turn off the engine, the front door opened. A young girl rushed onto the porch with a grin that immediately erased the exhaustion from his face. "Dad, you are late," Emily called. Liam laughed softly as he stepped out of the truck. "I know. I had a few extra repairs today." Emily crossed her arms dramatically. "I was beginning to think you moved into the office building." "Not a chance," Liam replied. "The food here is much better." Her laughter filled the cool evening air. Inside the modest house, warmth replaced the rain. Family photographs lined the hallway walls. School drawings covered part of the refrigerator. The furniture was simple and well used, but everything felt cared for. Liam set down his toolbox and immediately asked about Emily's day. She talked about a science project, a spelling test, and a classmate who accidentally spilled orange juice during lunch. Liam listened carefully to every detail. Nothing seemed too small to deserve his attention. Later, while dinner simmered on the stove, Emily spread her homework across the kitchen table. Liam sat beside her helping with fractions. The two worked together beneath the soft yellow glow of a hanging light fixture. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows. Inside, the world felt peaceful. After homework was finished, Emily disappeared briefly and returned carrying a folded piece of paper. "I made something for you," she said. Liam unfolded it carefully. It was a drawing of the two of them standing beside their house. Above their heads, she had written 3 simple words in colorful letters. "My hero, Dad." Liam stared at the drawing for several seconds before smiling. "This is beautiful." Emily shrugged shyly. "I wanted to make something nice." Liam placed the drawing beside several others already displayed on the refrigerator. "Then it belongs right here." Across the city, Olivia Brooks sat alone inside her penthouse apartment overlooking the Seattle skyline. The view was breathtaking. Glass towers stretched into the distance. Ferries moved slowly across the dark water below. Yet despite the luxury surrounding her, the silence felt unusually heavy. She opened her laptop intending to review financial reports, but found her attention drifting. For reasons she could not explain, she kept thinking about the maintenance worker from earlier that day. The memory seemed insignificant, yet something about his calm reaction continued bothering her. Most people would have become defensive. Some would have argued. Others might have tried to impress her. Liam had done none of those things. He simply smiled and continued working. Meanwhile, back at the house, Emily had fallen asleep on the couch while watching an old movie. Liam gently covered her with a blanket before turning off the television. For a moment, he stood quietly beside her. The room was still. The refrigerator hummed softly in the background. Rain continued falling outside. Liam looked at his daughter and smiled. Then he glanced toward a framed photograph sitting on a nearby shelf. His expression changed ever so slightly. There was love there, gratitude, and a sadness he rarely allowed anyone to see. Because hidden beneath the ordinary life Olivia had dismissed that morning was a story far deeper than she could possibly imagine. The next morning arrived beneath a blanket of gray clouds drifting over Seattle. Collins' global headquarters was already alive with activity when Olivia Brooks stepped out of the elevator onto the executive floor. Meetings filled her calendar from morning until evening. Investors expected updates. Department heads needed approvals. Important decisions waited at every turn. Yet despite the pressure surrounding her, her thoughts returned several times to a man she barely knew. She found herself looking toward the maintenance department whenever she passed through the building. The realization irritated her slightly. She was not someone who became distracted easily. Meanwhile, Liam Carter began his day the same way he always did. He arrived early, checked work orders, and moved quietly through the building solving problems most people never noticed. A leaking valve, a malfunctioning sensor, a broken lock. Small issues disappeared wherever he went. Around noon, while carrying equipment through a hallway near the accounting department, he noticed a young employee sitting alone outside a conference room. Her eyes were red from crying. Liam slowed his pace. "Everything all right?" he asked gently. The woman quickly wiped her face. "I am fine." Liam nodded respectfully. "All right." He started to walk away. "Wait," she said quietly. Liam stopped. The employee explained that she had made an expensive mistake in a financial report. She feared losing her job. Liam listened without interrupting. When she finished, he offered a small smile. "Everyone makes mistakes." She shook her head. "Not mistakes like this." Liam leaned against the wall. "A long time ago, someone told me that failure is only permanent if you stop trying." The woman looked at him. "Did it help?" Liam smiled. "It changed my life." Before leaving, he encouraged her to speak honestly with her supervisor rather than hide the problem. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. Neither of them noticed that Olivia had witnessed part of it from the far end of the hallway. Later that afternoon, Olivia passed the same employee near the lobby. The young woman looked noticeably calmer. Curious, Olivia asked if everything was all right. The employee smiled. "Actually, yes." Olivia expected a longer explanation. Instead, the woman glanced toward a distant corridor and said, "One of the maintenance guys gave me exactly the advice I needed." Olivia followed her gaze. Liam was already walking away carrying a toolbox. He never looked back. The moment stayed with her. Most people in the building competed constantly for recognition. Promotions, praise, visibility. Everyone seemed eager to be noticed. Yet Liam appeared completely different. He moved through the company like someone who expected nothing from anyone. As the afternoon faded into evening, Olivia stood beside her office window watching rain streak across the glass. Far below, employees hurried toward parking garages and bus stops. Among them, she spotted Liam leaving the building. He paused near the entrance to hold the door open for several people carrying packages before stepping outside himself. A simple gesture, almost invisible, yet something about it felt important. Olivia could not explain why. She only knew that the more she observed him, the less he resembled the man she thought she had met. And for the first time since that awkward encounter in the lobby, she found herself wondering what kind of life could produce that much patience, that much grace, and that much quiet strength. 3 days later, Collins Global faced the kind of problem that could not be solved with a board meeting or a spreadsheet. Shortly after noon, a critical technology failure disrupted communication systems across several executive floors. Conference calls dropped unexpectedly. Presentation screens stopped responding. Internal scheduling platforms became inaccessible. Employees rushed through hallways carrying laptops and printed reports. Frustration spread quickly. Important investors were scheduled to arrive within hours, and every minute increased the pressure. Olivia Brooks stood inside the operations center reviewing updates from technology specialists. "How long?" she asked. One technician shook his head. "We are still trying to locate the source." Another pointed toward a monitor filled with error messages. "Nothing makes sense." Olivia folded her arms. The atmosphere felt tense and chaotic. Everyone was talking. Nobody seemed to have answers. Meanwhile, on a lower floor, Liam Carter was repairing a damaged access panel when he noticed unusual activity throughout the building. Employees hurried past him. Several looked visibly worried. Moments later, a facilities manager approached. "We may need your help upstairs." Liam followed him without hesitation. When they entered the operations center, the contrast was immediate. Executives crowded around screens. Specialists exchanged theories. Voices overlapped. Olivia looked exhausted. For a brief moment, her eyes met Liam's. "What are you doing here?" she asked. The facilities manager answered before Liam could speak. "I thought another set of eyes might help." Olivia looked skeptical, but too busy to argue. Liam quietly observed the room. He listened instead of speaking. He watched instead of assuming. After several minutes, he noticed something nobody else seemed focused on. The failures appeared unrelated on the surface, yet they all originated from equipment connected to a recently renovated section of the building. Liam asked a few simple questions. Most people ignored them. One technician finally answered. Liam nodded thoughtfully. Then he requested access to a maintenance corridor hidden behind a secured wall. Several employees looked confused. Olivia followed him along with 2 engineers. The corridor was narrow and quiet. A low mechanical hum echoed through the space. Liam walked slowly, studying a series of recently installed components. Then he stopped. "There," he said. The engineers stared. A newly installed power regulator had been configured incorrectly, creating intermittent disruptions throughout the system. The issue had nothing to do with software. It was physical infrastructure. 20 minutes later, communications returned. Screens reactivated. Calls resumed. Schedules reappeared. Relief swept through the building. Employees applauded. Executives congratulated the technology team. Yet Liam quietly gathered his tools and prepared to leave before anyone noticed. Olivia watched from across the room. Something about that bothered her. Most people would have stayed for recognition. Most people would have wanted credit. Liam seemed interested only in solving the problem. As he approached the elevator, Olivia stepped into his path. "You figured it out faster than everyone else." Liam shrugged slightly. Sometimes the simplest answer gets overlooked. "You saved a very important day." Again he smiled. "I just fixed what was broken." The elevator doors opened. Liam stepped inside and nodded politely before disappearing from view. Olivia remained standing in the hallway. Around her, employees celebrated a crisis avoided. Yet her thoughts stayed fixed on the man who had solved the problem and then walked away as if it were nothing at all. And for the first time, she began wondering whether the most impressive person in her company might be the one who never sat in the executive offices. The following week brought an unexpected change neither Liam Carter nor Olivia Brooks could ignore. It began with a routine request. Olivia asked the facilities department to send Liam to her executive floor to inspect a conference room that had developed intermittent lighting issues. On the surface, it seemed ordinary. In reality, it was the first time she had personally requested his assistance. When Liam arrived, toolbox in hand, The room was empty except for Olivia. Sunlight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle's waterfront. Ferries moved slowly across the bay while gray clouds drifted above the city. "The lights are over there," Olivia said. Liam nodded and immediately got to work. Several minutes passed in silence. Normally, Olivia appreciated silence. Today it felt different. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Liam looked down from the ladder. "Of course. How did you know what was wrong with the system last week?" Liam smiled faintly. "Years of fixing things." Olivia studied him. Most people would have taken credit. Liam tightened a component and climbed down. The problem was solved. That was enough. His answer lingered in the room. Later that afternoon, Olivia found herself thinking about the conversation. Curious, she opened personnel records she had never bothered to review before. What she discovered left her staring at the screen in disbelief. Liam had not always worked in maintenance. Years earlier, he had earned degrees in engineering and architectural design. He had worked for a respected firm known throughout the Pacific Northwest. Awards, certifications, leadership projects. The file painted a picture completely different from the man carrying a toolbox through her building every day. Yet one detail stood out more than everything else. Nearly 10 years earlier, his professional career had ended abruptly. No explanation appeared in the records. Only a gap. A very large gap. That evening, Olivia sat alone in her office long after everyone else had gone home. Rain streaked across the windows while city lights flickered below. She could not stop thinking about what she had learned. The man she had dismissed in the lobby was not uneducated. He was not inexperienced. He had once possessed the kind of future many people spent their entire lives chasing. The next morning, Olivia arrived early. As she stepped into the lobby, she noticed Liam helping an elderly delivery driver whose cart had become stuck near the entrance. He worked quietly, solved the problem, exchanged a few friendly words, and continued toward the service elevator. No audience. No recognition. Just another act of kindness nobody had requested. Olivia watched him disappear. For the first time, embarrassment settled heavily in her chest. She remembered her first words to him. "I thought they were sending someone more experienced." The memory made her uncomfortable, because now she understood something she had completely missed. Experience was never the thing Liam lacked. If anything, he carried more wisdom than most people she knew. And as Olivia stood in the busy lobby watching employees rush past, she realized she was no longer curious about what Liam Carter did for a living. She wanted to know who he really was, and why a man capable of building an extraordinary career had willingly walked away from it all. The question stayed with Olivia Brooks for days. Why would someone walk away from a future most people dreamed about? The answer arrived when she least expected it. One rainy afternoon, she was reviewing documents in her office when a call came from the Human Resources Director. During a conversation about employee benefits, Liam's name appeared again. This time, a small note attached to an old emergency contact form caught her attention. The date was nearly 10 years old. Beneath it was a brief record mentioning extended family medical leave. Nothing more. Yet somehow it explained everything and nothing at the same time. Later that evening, Olivia left the building later than usual. As she crossed the lobby, she noticed Liam sitting alone near a window waiting for the rain to ease. His shift had already ended. For a moment, she considered continuing toward the exit. Instead, she walked over. "Long day?" she asked. Liam looked up and smiled politely. "A little." Olivia glanced toward the rain-covered streets outside. "Mine too." Silence settled between them. It was not uncomfortable. In fact, it felt strangely natural. After a few moments, Olivia spoke again. "Can I ask you something personal?" Liam studied her expression before nodding. "You can ask." Olivia hesitated. "You had a very different career before this." Liam looked out the window. The city lights reflected across the wet pavement below. "Yes." "Do you ever miss it?" For several seconds he said nothing. Then a gentle smile appeared. "Sometimes." Olivia waited. Liam continued quietly. "My wife became ill many years ago." The words landed softly between them. "When Emily was still very young, we spent years going from appointment to appointment. I kept thinking things would improve." His voice remained calm. There was no bitterness, no self-pity, only truth. "Eventually I realized something." Olivia listened carefully. "What?" Liam looked toward the rain. "There are moments in life when you stop asking what you want and start asking what the people you love need." Olivia felt something tighten in her chest. Liam continued. I left my career because my family needed me more than my job did. The simplicity of the answer somehow made it even more powerful. Do you regret it? Olivia asked softly. Liam immediately shook his head. Not for a second. Outside, headlights moved slowly through the rain. Inside, the lobby felt unusually quiet. Olivia suddenly understood why nobody ever heard Liam complain. He had made his choice long ago and accepted it completely. The sacrifice that would have left many people angry had somehow made him stronger. Just then Liam's phone vibrated. A message appeared on the screen. His face brightened instantly. Olivia recognized the expression. It was the same one she had seen through the lobby window days earlier. Emily had sent another message. Liam smiled. She wants to know if I remembered we are making pancakes tonight. Olivia laughed softly. Did you? I would never survive forgetting. They both smiled. As Liam stood to leave, Olivia realized something that surprised her. For the first time in years, she was speaking with someone who seemed completely at peace with who he was. And as she watched him walk into the rain toward the life he had chosen, she began to understand that success and fulfillment were not always the same thing. Over the next several weeks, something subtle began to change inside Collins Global. Olivia Brooks noticed it first in the small moments. Whenever Liam Carter walked through the building, people seemed calmer around him. A stressed employee would leave a conversation smiling. A frustrated vendor would suddenly become cooperative. A difficult situation would somehow feel manageable. Liam never tried to lead these moments. They simply followed him wherever he went. One afternoon, Olivia stepped into a neighborhood grocery store on her way home. She rarely shopped for herself, but a canceled dinner meeting had left her with an unexpected free evening. As she pushed her cart through the aisles, she spotted a familiar figure near the produce section. Liam stood beside Emily, helping her compare ingredients for a school cooking project. The scene was ordinary, yet Olivia found herself watching from a distance. Emily laughed as Liam pretended to take the assignment more seriously than a professional chef. Their easy conversation filled the space between them with warmth. For a moment, Olivia felt like an outsider looking into a world she had never experienced. She considered leaving without speaking. Then Emily noticed her. "Dad, that is your boss," she whispered. Liam turned and smiled. "Good evening, Olivia." The greeting felt natural now. Olivia walked over. Within minutes, Emily was enthusiastically explaining her project, while Liam listened with patient attention. Eventually, Emily wandered toward another display, leaving the two adults alone. "She is remarkable," Olivia said. Liam's expression softened immediately. "She makes every day better." Olivia nodded. "I can see that." The words carried more meaning than she intended. A few days later, Olivia attended a community fundraiser sponsored by the company. She arrived expecting speeches and photographs. Instead, she found Liam volunteering quietly near the entrance. He was helping organize donated supplies for local families. No cameras followed him. No executives stood nearby. He was simply there because he wanted to help. Throughout the evening, Olivia observed him greeting strangers with the same respect he offered everyone else. Elderly visitors, children, volunteers, staff members. To Liam, every person seemed equally important. The realization stayed with her long after the event ended. That night, standing beside her apartment window overlooking Seattle, Olivia reflected on the life she had built. She had achieved goals that once felt impossible. Yet the more she thought about Liam, the more she recognized a truth she had spent years avoiding. Success had filled her calendar. It had not filled the empty spaces in her heart. Meanwhile, Liam sat at home helping Emily prepare for another school day. The house was quiet. The evening was simple. Yet there was peace there that could not be purchased or negotiated. As Olivia looked out across the city lights, she finally understood what had drawn her attention from the very beginning. It was not Liam's intelligence. It was not his past achievements. It was not even his kindness. It was the fact that despite everything he had lost, he had somehow remained the kind of man the world rarely creates and even more rarely notices. Autumn arrived in Seattle with cooler mornings and shorter days. The rhythm of life continued, yet something beneath the surface had begun to shift. One Monday afternoon, Liam Carter was called into a meeting with the facilities director. The conversation lasted less than 20 minutes, but when he walked back into the hallway, he carried an envelope in his hand and a thoughtful expression on his face. Later that evening, after helping Emily finish her homework, He sat quietly at the kitchen table reading the letter again. It contained an opportunity from an architectural firm in Portland. A former colleague had recommended him for a leadership position overseeing community development projects. The salary was excellent. The benefits were generous. Most importantly, it was the kind of work he had once loved. Emily looked up from her school notebook. "Is that good news?" she asked. Liam smiled gently. "It might be." Across the city, Olivia Brooks was reviewing quarterly reports when she received a message from the facility's director mentioning Liam's potential departure. She stared at the screen longer than necessary. At first, she told herself the feeling was simple surprise. Employees change jobs all the time. Life moved forward. Yet the thought of Liam leaving unsettled her in a way she could not explain. Over the following days, she found herself noticing every interaction they shared. A brief conversation in the lobby, a smile exchanged in the hallway, a quiet discussion about a maintenance project. None of it seemed extraordinary. Yet together, those moments had become part of her daily life. One evening, Olivia stood outside the building as employees headed home. She spotted Liam near the parking area. Gathering more courage than she expected, she walked over. "I heard about Portland," she said. Liam nodded. The offer came unexpectedly. "Are you going?" He looked toward the fading sunlight beyond the city skyline. "I do not know yet." Olivia searched his face. "It sounds like a remarkable opportunity." "It is." His answer was honest, but something remained unresolved in his expression. "Then why are you uncertain?" she asked. Liam smiled faintly. "Because every decision changes more than one life." Olivia immediately thought of Emily. Liam continued. "She finally feels settled. She has friends, a school she loves. Sometimes the right opportunity arrives at the wrong moment." The words stayed with Olivia long after he left. That night, she stood beside her apartment window looking out across the city lights. For years, she had believed clarity came from logic. Yet no spreadsheet could explain the ache she felt at the possibility of losing someone who had never truly belonged to her world. And for the first time, Olivia stopped asking herself why Liam mattered. Instead, she faced a far more difficult question. What if the man she could not stop thinking about was the very person her heart had been searching for all along? The decision lingered for another week. Autumn leaves gathered along Seattle sidewalks while Liam Carter continued moving through each day with the same quiet grace that had defined him from the beginning. He still repaired broken equipment. He still helped co-workers without being asked. He still hurried home each evening to Emily. Yet beneath the routine, an important choice waited. Then came the company's annual community appreciation event. Employees, families, and local partners filled a waterfront venue overlooking Elliott Bay. Music drifted through the evening air. Strings of warm lights reflected across the water. Olivia Brooks stood near the stage greeting guests, but her attention kept searching the crowd. Eventually, she found Liam sitting beside Emily at a table near the harbor. They were laughing together. The sight made her smile. Later that evening, after the presentations ended and the crowd began to thin, Olivia finally gathered the courage she had spent weeks trying to find. She walked toward the waterfront promenade where Liam stood alone watching ferries cross the dark water. "Beautiful night," she said softly. Liam nodded. "It is." For a moment, neither spoke. The distant sound of waves touched the shoreline below. Lights shimmered across the bay. Olivia took a slow breath. "Have you made your decision?" Liam looked at her. "About Portland?" She nodded. Not completely. The answer surprised her. She had expected certainty by now. Liam glanced back toward the event where Emily was talking with friends. "There are good reasons to go," he admitted. "But there are also good reasons to stay." Olivia felt her heart racing. For years, she had negotiated million-dollar agreements without hesitation. Yet these next words felt harder than any business decision she had ever faced. "Liam," she said quietly, "when we first met, I thought I understood who you were." He smiled faintly. "You were not the only one." Olivia shook her head. "No, I was wrong." The honesty in her voice made him listen carefully. "I spent years surrounded by successful people. Important people. People everyone notices. Then you walked into my life carrying a toolbox, and somehow you became the person I respected most." Liam said nothing. The silence between them felt gentle rather than awkward. Olivia continued. "You showed me that character matters more than titles. That kindness matters more than status. And somewhere along the way, I realized something else." Her voice softened. I realized I was looking forward to seeing you every day. Liam's expression changed. Not surprise. Understanding. Olivia smiled through nervousness she could no longer hide. The truth is, I do not want you to leave. For several seconds the world seemed to grow very still. Then Liam looked out across the water before returning his gaze to her. Do you know what I see when I look at you now? Olivia slowly shook her head. Liam smiled. Someone who finally sees people. The answer brought tears to her eyes. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. Behind them, laughter drifted across the waterfront. Ahead of them, the city lights stretched into the distance. And in that quiet moment, neither success nor failure seemed important anymore. What mattered was that two people who had once stood on opposite sides of a crowded lobby were finally standing side by side. Sometimes the person we have been missing is not someone new. Sometimes it is the person who was there all along, waiting patiently to be seen.